On April 14, 2023, United Nations announced that India is set to overtake China as the world's most populous country. At the start of the century, only the Western world had a consumer class that could afford global brands, as the rest of the world was too poor. But things have changed. Today, Asia is home to over half of the world's consumers, mainly due to the growing populations of India and China. These two countries together make up about a third of the world's population and consumer class, and they spend around a quarter of global consumer expenses. When we compare India and China, they share many similarities. Both countries have a population of approximately 1.4 billion, and this year alone, they will each add approximately 30 million people to their consumer class. Over the past decade, their economies have grown at a high rate, around 5 to 7% annually. Taking a broad view, India appears to be following in China's footsteps, or more accurately, becoming the next China. However, if India is similar to China, why do businesses prefer China rather than India or any other country? Here are some of the answers. Emerging consumer market. China has the largest consumer market in the world. At 899 million people, China remains the country with the most populous consumer class, whereas India's is only half that at 473 million. Their growth in 2023 is comparable, with China's consumer class growing by 36 million and India's by 31 million. However, estimates that China will continue to have a larger consumer class for at least the next 2 decades. China has an older consumer class, with a median age of 39, while India's consumers are younger, with an average age of 30. In the coming years, India will have the largest population of young consumers under 30, reaching 357 million by 2030. This makes India the world's largest young consumer market. On the other hand, China is already the world's largest market for senior consumers. By 2030, India will account for 1/5 of the global youth consumer market, while China will represent 1/4 of the senior market. When it comes to where people live, most of China's consumers are in cities. About 80% of them live in urban areas. In contrast, India's consumers are more spread out. Only about half of India's consumer class lives in cities. In China, the consumer class is concentrated in big cities, with an estimated 553 million people expected to live in cities with over 1 million population by 2030. On the other hand, India is projected to have 290 million people in such large cities by the same year. These numbers suggest that reaching India's new consumers might be more challenging compared to reaching China's consumers, even though the number of consumers is growing in both countries. India's consumer class is characterized by a young population spread across different areas, offering great potential for increased consumer spending. On the other hand, China's consumer class consists of older, wealthier individuals concentrated in urban areas. This is why many businesses prefer to invest in China rather than India. However, both countries hold tremendous opportunities for growth in the future. By 2030, India and China together are projected to add over 500 million new consumers, accounting for 55% of the global total. Additionally, their combined annual spending is expected to reach around $9 trillion annually, representing 42% of the global total. Cost and availability of skilled workforce. The profitability of manufacturing in China is under threat for importers. The ongoing US-China trade war shows no signs of quick resolution, and if left unresolved, almost all goods traded between the US and China will be subject to tariffs. As a result, companies are seeking cost-effective alternatives, and manufacturing in India has emerged as a favorable option. For example, Hasbro plans to reduce its reliance on China-made products and shift production to India. Foxconn, the manufacturer of Apple's iPhone and Amazon's Echo, has already established a plant in India and intends to expand operations there. However, many other companies are exploring solutions outside of India or choosing to remain in China. They perceive India's challenges, such as a skills gap and inadequate infrastructure, as significant barriers that may hinder their continued success. The rising labor costs in China have been a concern for importers as it significantly impacts manufacturing expenses. Moreover, the tensions between US and China have further highlighted the appeal of India as a cost-effective alternative for manufacturing. However, India faces a shortage of specialized skills, which is a crucial aspect in manufacturing. This deficiency is evident in the quality and complexity of India's top exported products. It also affects employers' ability to easily fill job vacancies, reflecting the challenges associated with finding skilled workers. Perhaps, the reason most companies still remain in China and choose to manufacture their products in the country is best explained by Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. After China reopened its border early this year, Tim Cook visited China on March and showed up at an Apple store in Beijing. During his visit, Cook met with China's newly appointed premier, Li Qiang, along with other high-ranking officials. The purpose of the meeting was to reinforce Apple's commitment to the Chinese market, particularly in light of supply chain changes and geopolitical uncertainties. And these were his words. "There's a confusion about China. The popular conception is that companies come to China because of low labor cost. I'm not sure what part of China they go to, but the truth is China stopped being the low labor cost country many years ago. And that is not the reason to come to China from a supply point of view. The reason is because of the skill, and the quantity of skill in one location and the type of skill it is. The products we do require really advanced tooling, and the precision that you have, the tooling and working with the materials that we do are state-of-the-art. And the tooling skill is very deep here. In the US, you could have a meeting of tooling engineers and I'm not sure we could fill the room. In China, you could fill multiple football fields. And this is why Apple and many other businesses chose China as their main manufacturing hub. Logistics and infrastructure. Anyone hoping to succeed at manufacturing must consider the logistics and infrastructure of the country. These factors greatly influence the efficiency and quality of product delivery. For instance, the time required to transport goods from an inland factory to a port can vary depending on the local transportation options. Challenging conditions or lengthy transit times can have a significant impact on the condition of goods upon arrival at their destination. The World Bank publishes its Logistical Performance Index, or LPI, every 2 years, ranking countries according to several criteria. China ranks 19 while India ranks 38. India has 6.7 million kilometers of road while China has 5.2 million kilometers of road. Although India has a larger road network than China, 33% of it is unpaved. Apart from that, China has 161,000 kilometers of highway, but India only has 4,000 kilometers of highway. China's railways are the busiest in the world. In 2019, railways in China carried 4.389 billion tons of freight. In comparison, India's freight railway only carries about 1.4 billion tons of goods every year, which is about 40% of China's capacity. China also boasts the world's longest and most extensively used high-speed rail network, with a total length of 42,000 kilometers by the end of 2022. In fact, China's HSR accounts for 2/3 of the world's total high-speed railway networks. At present, India does not have any functioning high-speed rail lines. However, the government has approved the development of 8 corridors for high-speed rail, with construction already underway for the Mumbai-Ahmedabad corridor. India's infrastructure development is hindered by excessive bureaucracy and inefficiency in project execution. A clear example of this is the stark contrast between Indonesia's collaboration with China to construct the first high-speed rail line in Jakarta and India's partnership with Japan to build a similar HSR line from Mumbai to Ahmedabad. While the Jakarta-Bandung HSR line has already been completed, India's HSR line has faced significant delays and is still under construction. Consequently, these factors severely restrict traffic flow and the capacity of roads and railways to facilitate robust commercial trade. In conclusion, the rise of India as a global consumer market and its potential to overtake China in terms of population poses an intriguing question for businesses. Why focus on China rather than India or any other country? While China currently holds the largest consumer market and has an established infrastructure, India's youthful consumer class and cost-effective manufacturing options make it an attractive alternative. However, Challenges such as a skills gap and inadequate infrastructure in India still deter some companies from fully investing in the country. At this moment, most businesses would prefer China as their manufacturing hub. However, things may change over the next few decades. So, do you agree with this video? Share your thoughts and leave your comments below. If you like what you watch, hit the like button to show your support. More importantly, subscribe to this channel so that you will receive more interesting videos about Asia.